introduction, where I'll take you through the highlights of what this is all about. Next will be the Tanzanian Urban Design Framework, where I'll take you through how development of Tanzanian urban infrastructure from the pre-colonial era to today. The next one will be smart city planning in Tanzania, the global and national trends in Tanzania, followed by things to consider if you want to consider smart city sustainability and planning. And lastly, the challenge of Tanzanian context with regard to smart city planning and sustainability. So to kick it off, so basically when we speak about smart city planning, it's all about use of technology, data, in order to advance the infrastructure and planning of the urban environment. So in a nutshell, when you say about smart city planning, this constitutes of wide range of use of data, technology, and integration of those two things in the community or urban settings where people thrive, live, and work. So in a nutshell, these are the four components, particularly the last one, the totalization of the practice of ICT, because as the urban city planning develops and emerge, then the innovation takes over automatically. And this is very, very crucial as far as the smart city planning is concerned. So city like Singapore, which is a capital country, city capital country, and also city like Copenhagen, Denmark, these are the things that are now in action. So to put things in perspective, you can see this is an example in a nutshell of how the smart city planning works. So you have everything is data oriented. So from the city, from manufacturing, from people. So think of it like you wake up in the morning, you look at your smartphone, you look at the timetable for the bus or the train, you go there at the specific time, you took the bus or the train, you arrive at work, you open your door using a smartphone, you sit at work, you log in at the office or the work using your smartphone. I did it myself, so I'm no stranger to this. And also you check out by using your smartphone. So there's a whole range of collection of data at the same time. And these data are used to optimize your efficiency in terms of your life, your work, and how you live in general. So when you talk about smart city planning, we also have to consider something called sustainability. In sustainability, we normally say it's a use of current resources in a way that the future generation can also enjoy those resources that you're using right now. So when you talk about sustainability, you talk about three things. You talk about the environment, you talk about the technology, and also you talk about social improvement, and also economic. So in social improvement, we normally take into action things like gender inclusion, disability inclusion, and things like that. So these are the things that should not be left behind because they are very, very important to move the society as a whole, in particular with regard to smart city planning and sustainability. And also when we talk about urban planning, this is very, very crucial. This is a design of the city or a town in a way that governs the relationship between the people who live there, how they work, and how they interact with the environment. So this is also a very, very crucial concept as far as we are going to the fourth industrial revolution, which we are carrying towards to, and this is governed by data. So to put things in perspective, you can see now we are in the era where we talk about sustainable development goals. These are 17 agenda in which the world is moving towards to. And with regard to smart city planning, we have three major issues, which sustainable development communities, which is the goal number 11. We also have climate action, which is goal number 13. And also, we have partnership for the goals. So different institution or association or different facets of the society coming together and make sure that these things thrive for the people in the community. So I want to take you through about how did we get there as a Tanzanians. So with regard to urban settings and urban planning, this is what has been done so far. So initially, when we used to have, back in the pre-colonial era, where we used to have those people like Mkwawa, Tipu Tipu, etc., there was no actual urban planning. Everything was planned based on the cultural context of the people, where they live, and what their rulers are. So it was more of context based of where people coming from. So that's why until today we still have those houses where they are very traditional and very local, depending on where people live. So for example, if you go to Marangu, you go to Kibosho, you see specific houses building for that particular environment, for that particular people. If you go to Tabora, you see those houses. If you go to Kagera, you see those particular houses. So there was no actually urban setting or specific context of to govern the movement of people in a particular setting, but based on, it was more or less based on the culture context and what they believe at that time. So after that, we have colonial urban setting. So this was set up to facilitate trade, particularly slave trade, and also trade from upcountry to the port to transfer to other areas. So for example, places like United Arabs, where they used to take slaves, America, and so forth. Then we have, after independence, we have pre-Arusha Declaration. So this was governed by Industrial Revolution. Urban migration was possible because now people are free to move, and there was no slave by then. So this also dictates on how the cities or towns evolve in Tanzania. After that, we have pre-economic crisis, where there was the visualization program. So this is the Nyerere era, the first president of the United Republic of Tanzania, where he urges people to come together to form villages. And this was during the era where people started to live in the community settings as a unit, as a town, or as a cities, mini cities by then. Then from there, we have economic crisis and early reform. So after the Kagera War in 1978, the country was in so much debt, and there was so much, the country was out of money, actually. So there was a move for people to move to urban centers, particularly in Dar es Salaam, to look for better jobs, because people didn't have any money by then. And this also it was dictated by adjustment and structural liberalization, particularly the reform based on IMF, where it was supposed to do this structural adjustment and liberalization. And this is where we start to see cities coming together, especially Dar es Salaam, which was the state capital and also business capital at the time. So after that, we have consolidation, which was characterized by regional capital absorbed the slow urban population. So this is where businesses, people, particularly in upcountry, so places like Arusha, Morogoro, Mwanza, this is a time where these cities start to come together and really form the city-state, the city level of the community, where people can thrive without moving to Dar es Salaam to other places. And from 2003 to 2012, this was called the New Dawn. So this is actually the research. This was done according to research. And this is where the country experienced at least 30% increase in per capita GDP per growth rate. And also there was a rise in urban growth. So a lot of people moved from rural to urban environment. And there was increase of formal employment, particularly by the government and private sector. And also Dar es Salaam became the state capital and also the business capital of Tanzania. And a lot of people were motivated to move to Dar es Salaam because of that. Then from 2013 to date, I mean, you can tell to everybody. We have urban sprawl, where now we have many cities emerging from different parts of the country. So for example, in Dar es Salaam, we can tell places like Goba, Tabata. These are the places where it evolved, and they become some sort of mini cities where people are enough by themselves to obtain their needs, whether for work or for leisure, without having to move to the city center. So it's also characterized by the rapid population growth. So we'll see to the next slide. And also emergence of suburbs. Also these are cities outside the city. So for example, right now, you can see places like Tegeta, Bunju. These are the places where back then it was only for farming, or people go there for farming activities, but now it's a community where people live and thrive. And also we see from that moment to date, emergence of regional cities as business hubs. So places like Arusha, Mbeya, Mwanza, and not to mention Dodoma now is becoming the major city, just like Dar es Salaam. Like in 10, 15 years, Dodoma will be just like in Dar es Salaam, because of its importance as a state capital, and also a lot of business opening there. So, for example, we used to see places like Shoppers. Shoppers was only in Dar es Salaam, but now you can go to Dodoma and you can find Shoppers Plaza. So that tells you that the city is evolving, and also people are evolving too. So everyone shapes another. So you can tell. So this is Dar es Salaam. You can see on your left, this is Dar es Salaam, but also on your right, this is still Dar es Salaam. What it means? It has been estimated that majority of people living in Dar es Salaam are still living in informal settings. You can see this is a map that it was someone modeled this, and you can see the yellow color highlights how the informal settlement is growing in Dar es Salaam, while the gray, this is the formal settlement. So going forward, I think there's a really need to address this situation, because otherwise Dar es Salaam will also be home to slums, just like Kibera in Nairobi, just like in Makoko in Nigeria, and it's not good for a variety of reasons. Number one, increase in gap between rich and poor. As you know, in Tanzania right now, the middle class is still growing very, very fast. And so because of that, there are also people who are being left out because of that. So if this is not addressed, people are still moving to Dar es Salaam without taking into account the impact of, without considering the actual value of what it means to move in Dar es Salaam without having a proper way to do it. So it has been estimated that by 2050, the world will be population to 10 billion people, and 68% of these people will be moving in urban environments. So we can see even right now, places like Dar es Salaam, Arusha, Mwanza, these are the places where people are now jumping or moving at a very, very rapid rate. Look at Kigamboni, for example, what it used to be back then and now. Look at places like Goba. Look at the places like Bunju. Look at places like Gongolamboto. It used to be less people, but now it's like it's overcrowded already. And this is prompted or being accelerated by urban-rural migration, where people move in city centers to fetch for good jobs, good health services, good education, etc., etc. So over time, the government is overwhelmed because it doesn't have sufficient means to provide for all these people at the pace that these people are moving in. So for example, it has been estimated by 2030, this will be almost 5 billion people living in urban environment. So this poses a challenge in different ways. And in Tanzania in particular, it was estimated by 2050, amount of people will be over close to 140 million. So this is the population of East Africa combined right now, but that will be only in Tanzania. So you can imagine how tough it can be. Going forward, there are 4 challenges. Challenge number 1, as more people move into urban environment, challenge number 1 will be the housing. So how people will be living in these houses. What kind of houses? I showed the picture before. You see, there are people who are living very well in Dar es Salaam, but also there are people living in a very, very poor environment in Dar es Salaam. Number 2 will be food security. So how all these people will be meeting their food demands, food security. Because people in urban environment basically do not farm. They expect food to come to them, so they buy and do something else, but they don't farm. So this is another challenge. The third one is how people are going to be moving around. So this is a major challenge, and we did research on this one, and we found out that as much as there's initiatives that are being geared toward improving transport, but still the demand is still there, and also there's actually unintended consequences with this type of transportation. And the last one, but not least, is the climate change, which is ubiquitous around the world right now. So the key is to achieve the smart city status. What should be done, or what should be considered in order to have this level of smart city status, particularly in Tanzanian context? So number 1 will be to have energy efficient building and infrastructure. So with this one, I'm talking about green buildings. So for example, if you are people who live in Dar es Salaam, I'm sure you are familiar with the NHC building, the headquarters along Aga Khan. So that is green building. And we did research on that, and we found out that in comparison to similar buildings, that buildings also consumes less than 30% energy demands or energy needs compared to conventional buildings. And that is very, very good, because that means you can save more energy, which can be used for other purposes. And also, people can feel more in tune with nature compared to those conventional buildings. Number two is transportation. So to encourage cycling, to encourage use of public transport, electric vehicles, which means less pollution, comfortability. I mean, people, if you're using bicycle, for example, going to work or commuting, then you are putting less pressure on transportation sector as individual. So this is good for the environment, good for your health, and also good for the community as well. So another one is to encourage recycling and reuse. Particularly this, I'm talking about circular economy, where it's an economy where you use what you use is also what is being taken back to the system. By that I mean things like recycling, reuse. This can be wastewater, can be solid waste, and stuff like that. So these are the points to achieve this. Another one is to locate and make use of urban green spaces. So in Tanzanian context, we don't see the value in using these green and urban spaces as much as in developed countries. But I think over time now it's changing. So for example, right now, if you want to enjoy these urban green spaces, you either go to a very nice hotel, or if you're lucky, you can go outside the city. So let's say you can go to Bagamoyo, you can go to Mlandizi, etc. But these are the crucial issues that also makes smart city sustainable and actually a place better to live comparison to conventional cities. So this is very, very important. So you have to think about how do you make these green spaces viable and well in an environment. So we did a research on this, and we found out that on average, average household in Dar es Salaam have less green space less green space availability compared to someone living in upcountry, which is we can understand, because one of the reasons is that although it used to have people in the household used to have green spaces, but over time they use that land to build houses for renting or to have some sort of sufficient income based on the available space. So the land now is used or is being reshaped for other purposes. I don't know if it's good or bad, but I mean, that's a personal choice. But I think one thing that we're missing is a regulatory framework to govern this. So for example, back then, it was very okay in Dar es Salaam for people to bury their relative within the vicinity of their home. Then I think after 2001, 2002, the law was changed, and it was not supposed to do that anymore. So if you want to do a burial, you have to seek for located places and do that. But now you cannot do it. But back then it used to be like that. So once you do the burial, then you occupy some land within your home. And for whatever the purpose was, now you cannot do it. You can still do it in up countries. For example, at in our home village, you can still do it, but now in the rest of them, you can't do it. Now, this is very, very crucial. Data-driven decisions. We live in a world where now data is crucial for making decisions. And we saw that during COVID, where data was very, very crucial in making decisions on how people move, how people commute, and how people thrive within the environment. So going forward, if you want to achieve the smart city status, this should be integrated in every aspect of our lives. For example, to give an example, in Japan, during COVID, Japan has very, very strong internet coverage, very, very strong internet accessibility, and very, very affordable. So the country, the government, deployed the application where you don't know the person, but you can know at any time point that if someone has COVID, has passed through, near your street or near your neighborhood or whatever. But so with that, you can make an informed decision either to not go around those environments where this person is located, or if you've been exposed to that particular environment yourself, you can check yourself out and try to come with decisions like going for checking, for checkup, etc. So they use this called 3T. So it's stress, test, and treat. And because of this, they were able to combat COVID-19 at a very, very much faster rate, and they have lower death compared to other countries. So this is very, very important. And in Tanzania, I think we still lack this kind of initiative because of the challenge with internet accessibility in terms of affordability and coverage. So for example, there's 5G, but I'm not sure how many people can access 5G, which is a reliable way of accessing internet at a very, very faster rate. Going forward, it has a lot of implication, even if we have best plans, best people to work on, but if we don't work on these particular issues, we're still doomed to fail, and we'll still be doing business as usual. So number one, the law governing land occupation. So in Tanzania, we lease the land for 99 years, which means after 99 years, we have to either apply again, which you can get it or not, or that land is not yours anymore. Versus Kenya. Kenya, you pre-hold the land, so once the land is yours, it's yours forever. So the generation can come the next year, after no matter how many years to come, the land is still within your tribe or within your community or within your relatives. But in Tanzania, it's different. So this also scared the investors in one way or another because they are scared. So after some time, this land is not mine. And the Land Act of Tanzania states clearly that the land of Tanzania belongs to Mr. President or Mrs. President. Yeah, so this is a big challenge. Number two is corruption, which for land ownership issues. Some of you may have witnessed this in one way or another. You can find the piece of land is being sold 3 or 2 times by different agents at different times. So that also brings another challenge of its own to the community, and also it's a challenge to achieve that smart city status for a country like Tanzania. Another issue is also low knowledge on land ownership, and here I'm talking about people don't seek enough knowledge from competent professionals on what it means to learn to own a land, what it means to invest in the land, and what it means to have commercial property or in a commercial space, what it means to have land for residential purposes, etc. So sometimes they mix the two, but it's become a burden to the community, it's become a burden to the government, and also to the people who are owning that land. Another thing is the finance, capital. I'm sure you're all aware there was a very good, nice project that was supposed to happen in Kigamboni back in I think like 7 to 10 years ago. But I don't know what happened to that project, which was very well thought of, and it was supposed to be considered as an example of a smart city where people can thrive in a way that the people of this generation, of this era, are supposed to live. But one of the challenges was lack of finance or capital from that particular issues. Another is competing priority on multi-sectorial level. So this is basically the government. As you know, as much as we want to, but sometimes the government does not have enough master plan which can cover, let's say, for 100 years. Most of our plans can go like 40 to 50 years. So for example, the master plan of Dar es Salaam has been reshuffled like 4 times in the last 50 years. So you can tell in 50 years, you have 4 different master plans. What does that mean? It's a quote from UNESCO, which claimed that a city is a space encompasses so much more than grids, buildings, and jobs. It's also aspirational situation of the people who live in them, and all the negotiation they have to make with economic and political physical forces to live full life. So what it is saying is, whatever the city you are living in, that is the relationship between the people, their culture, and their life in that particular area at that particular time in one place. So it's not only about the buildings It's not about the nature, but also the relationship between the people and how they interact with that environment or that city at that particular moment. Thank you so much.